The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea.
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
This is Mossad's old office. Its motto from Proverbs 24:6 says in so many words, wage war through deception and trickery, kind of like the CIA's smoke and mirrors.
Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I want to talk about the horrific public assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, whether you were a fan of Charlie's or not, I think that we can all agree watching that happen was traumatizing and deeply disturbing, and it affects you emotionally, spiritually. I know a lot of emotions are high right now. It hasn't been a lot of time since this happened, especially also with the gleeful response from the left that we're seeing online of people celebrating this, people smearing him, attacking his wife, saying his wife and children are better off without him. Watching them just green light this kind of thing happening to basically anybody that disagrees with them and justifying it has, enraged a lot of people. And I think that it's getting people into this kind of partisan mindset, this us versus them, when we know better. We know that both sides are controlled and that there is a dialectical trap that they are trying to push us into. And we're being told that 22-year-old Tyler Robinson from Utah, from a Mormon family, is the lone gunman, the lone perpetrator of this event. And from the beginning, there has been something off about the coverage of this, about the investigation, about the information being released, how it's being released, the lack of information available, the contradictory statements coming out, things being leaked to the media, later retracted. It's very obvious to me that this whole thing bears all of the hallmarks of a deep event. And we have kind of covered what that is. I mean, we've done many deep dives into similar events. And I think that it behooves us to ask the question of who might benefit from something like this happening, and why might they do something like this? If we are to question the official narrative, which I think is very, very important, because information is coming out very quickly, and it's easy to forget what was said at first versus what is being presented now, this continuously evolving and incoherent narrative. And also, if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture of what has been happening in the country with these mass shooting events, with a lot of those being, having very clear ties to MK Ultra, to DARPA, to, the perpetrators having family in the military, or the connections with the intelligence community, or being in contact with some kind of federal informant like Peyton Gendron. There seems to be a broader strategy of tension being applied to this country to divide and destroy it from within. And I think it, is worth considering that in light of what we're seeing happening now, the kind of push for censorship, the calls to censor social media, calls to crack down on perceived political enemies, and, Rightfully so in some cases, or at least understandable. And I think it's easy to get kind of caught up in stuff like that and to not critically examine the actual information and evidence being presented to us. I do think that this is reminiscent of Gladio, which we've covered before, of these, stay behind networks that were trained paramilitary style to prevent a Soviet invasion of Europe, and how they often engaged in these kinds of false flag attacks that they would then pin on a political side. It seems like we are being subjected to that here. Let's not forget what's happened earlier this year. We had the United Healthcare clipping. We had the assassination of 2 State Department employees as they were leaving an event, and the perpetrator was presented to us as a Marxist, pro-Palestinian who shouted "Free, free Palestine" after doing it, and then immediately sat on a bench and waited to be apprehended. And of course, they had the Palestinian scarf with them, ready to go. And then there was the assassination of Melissa Hortman by Vance Bolter, a guy who has connections to private military contractors, a very bizarre character that we still don't know a lot about, who was actually stationed in Gaza at a time. Very odd things happening, and it seems like it's part of a bigger strategy. So I do think it's worth questioning what we're being told and looking at it with a critical eye. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and do that now. One very bizarre aspect to this was a man named George Zinn, who was detained after this event and has a very colorful history. If you remember this image, we saw this guy getting pulled out. He was shouting weird things. And initially people were saying this was the guy, right? This was the guy. Well, George Zinn is an odd character. An elderly Utah man briefly detained after Charlie Kirk's assassination is now identified as George Zinn, 71, a self-described political gadfly with a decades-long history of strange and disruptive behavior. Zinn was hauled away by police at Utah Valley University minutes after Charlie Kirk was shot, telling officers he shot him. This seemed to me like some kind of diversion to allow the real perpetrator to escape. Viral footage showed him being escorted with his pants around his ankles as the crowd cursed at him. Police later cleared him as a suspect, but charged him with obstruction of justice. He has an odd history of disruptions. Zinn has been a fixture at political events since the 80s, often removed for causing nonsensical disruptions. In 2013, he was jailed for threatening to bomb Salt Lake City Marathon. This was right after the Boston Marathon event. He's faced numerous trespassing arrests tied to film festivals, rallies, and protest. Last October, he was arrested for standing in the middle of the street in Ogden, refusing to move. And what's interestingly not mentioned here in this post is that he was in New York City right after 9/11 shouting about Al-Qaeda. So what we're looking at potentially is a Sayanim, in my opinion. So it's very odd. Then we got this footage here of this guy limping, and if I remember correctly, this was first disclosed by TMZ, so not really even a legitimate news organization. So the story was, constantly changing. There was another guy who was detained that had a pellet gun. This also seemed to be part of a diversionary tactic. It was very weird. And so these are the things that I'm saying need to be examined. It's odd. Yeah, here we go. Here's George Zinn, who created the textbook diversion for exfiltration when Charlie Kirk was shot, explaining how he was perfectly positioned to watch the planes hit the Twin Towers, and proclaimed immediately that it must have been Al-Qaeda. He just knew, right? Mossad Operation Unraveling, the same diversion guy that facilitated what happened to Charlie Kirk, was involved in 9/11. And it's strange that what happened to Charlie Kirk was September 10th. That was this event took place a day before the anniversary of 9/11. So how odd is that, right? Then we get this information. Undercover obtained Utah County Sheriff's Office internal documents regarding the suspect, Tyler Robinson. So this information was released by Stephen Crowder. Probable cause statement does not give tons of detail. So you can read that yourself, but this was the information coming out, is that it was this kid here, Tyler Robinson, who was turned in by his father. So the FBI didn't find this guy. It was not them. It wasn't even local law enforcement. It was the kid's dad who saw some of the little pictures that they released, these grainy, crappy images from CCTV or whatever. He saw that and then turned his own son in. This is a video of Tyler.
Okay. Congratulations. You have been selected to receive the Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
So this kid was apparently smart. He got a full scholarship and ended up only attending for 1 semester. So you have to ask yourself, like, what was going on there? Who did this guy come into contact with? Who did he befriend? Because oftentimes these kids are groomed to do stuff like this, and that kind of a change in personality like 6 months beforehand, or sudden bad academic performance that was unusual and uncharacteristic, is something that we see in these kinds of events. I mean, look at James Holmes and his rapid deterioration from being, an incredibly smart, gifted person, also on a full scholarship, to how he was when Aurora occurred in just a few months' time. I mean, this is concerning. Tyler Robinson shows that anyone can be a killer. He looks like your average 22-year-old. I don't think people are talking about that enough. I mean, yeah, anybody is vulnerable to being groomed, of course. He's 22 years old, and also each of us has the capacity for evil within ourselves. But this is basically the story, that this kid did it for kind of vague reasons. I mean, initially they said it was probably a trans individual. Then they said it was Antifa. Now it's this guy. It's just a very odd thing. And initially we were told that there were inscribings on the bullet casings, and then that was retracted, and then it was put out again with actual quotes of what that was. And I find this to be a concerning thing, how the story is changing like this. So his parents apparently were conservative, or at least they are Christian, kind of Mormons. It's obvious that he grew up around firearms, and yeah, it's, his descent into radical leftism. So did that happen though? Like, is there evidence of that? We're being told his family members are saying this. Okay, but who facilitates those leftist groups? That's another question that should be examined here. They're claiming he is far left Antifa while his parents are conservatives, similar to the Tesla firebomber Cooper Joe Frederick, who's far left Antifa while his parents are conservatives, if you remember this guy. So, that's also kind of interesting. The accused assassin, Tyler Robinson, reportedly received instructions via Discord to pick up a rifle and an engraved case from a prearranged drop point. According to emerging reports, Robinson coordinated with others on the platform, including a so-called friend who helped retrieve the weapon ahead of the attack. So this is another story that Discord itself would claim is incorrect. So this is what I mean by this constant contradictory information that we're getting.
Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of.
Here's another odd thing. Allowed investigators to take photos of it. Why would they not immediately seize the electronics for forensic extraction of information? Why on earth would they be taking pictures instead of getting the metadata on that? Is that not weird to you?
Of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related.
This is also strange because this governor has come out saying that just after doing this, like a day after giving this press conference, has come out and said that he acted alone. He's literally just talking about how there was a drop point and there was communications with others. There were co-conspirators.
To visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits.
So he's changing outfits, he's going through this like elaborate process, and discussing this with these people, and they didn't immediately notify law enforcement. Does that not seem odd to you?
I know there's been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now.
Okay, this is weird because if you watch the video, only one shot was fired and there wasn't an exit wound that could be seen. So what casings would there be besides like the bullet that would presumably still be inside Charlie, or, you know, whatever, like what other casings? This is odd.
So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle
isn't that the same one Lee Harvey Oswald allegedly used?
Had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point."
Yeah, so I guess we have to believe that he brought these casings with him and left it with the gun that he hid in the woods. Like, how does this make sense to anybody? It is weird. And I'd like to see the actual pictures of that. Tyler Robinson appears stunningly moronic, or maybe had a strange detachment from reality. You would guess he would care about OPSEC, but a roommate told investigators the alleged gunman had made statements on Discord under the name Tyler. The Discord chat included, quote, messages stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, and messages related to watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped up in a towel. More messages had, quote, referred to engraving bullets, and a mention of the scope and rifle being unique, talking about changing outfits. I'm sorry, but does this not sound strange? Again, Discord has claimed that there is no evidence of any of this on Discord, of any kind of like planning of this event happening. So it's, again, like, we are getting this kind of weird information, contradictory information. Questions grow over Kirk's killer's alleged online chat. Tyler Robinson allegedly bragged on Discord about carrying out the event, but officials have revealed nothing about who else was in that chat, who was in the Discord channel. Discord was the platform used by the Butler assassin, crooks. Yet again, we're not told who they were communicating with. And if Robinson asked someone to pick up his rifle after the event, who was that person? Did they know in advance? If so, that's not just suspicious, that's an accessory. These answers are still missing. Yeah, well, there's a lot of other questions here too, you know, like who was in that chat room, and why then would they not seize these devices to forensically examine and extract metadata from? Why take pictures? That to me suggests that perhaps there was a federal informant in this chat room that perhaps they are trying to protect. Isn't that odd? Robinson had become more political in recent years, according to Utah Governor Spencer Cox. That we should also add, Charlie Kirk criticized this governor in 2023 and said he should be removed from the GOP. So it's kind of, isn't it odd that he's the person leading the investigation?
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
Interesting. Tyler was radicalized by the American left. That much is now clear. The question is whether the chattering classes will subject his influences to the same kind of ideological scrutiny they eagerly applied to Anders Breivik. No, of course they're not going to do that. But, I mean, this is the story being presented, and I guess it is possible. It's possible this guy is just a kind of mentally ill, radicalized person who did this on his own, essentially, or maybe in connection with a few other individuals. I mean, we're now being told that they're investigating several, quote, far-left groups in Utah. So it's possible, but I think we need to look at some other things as well. So other information that was coming out, and this is what I mean by this weird disinformation that's coming out initially. There was another Tyler Robinson who donated money to Trump. So the leftists were all out here trying to say this guy was a Trump supporter, and it totally made sense that he would take out Charlie Kirk. I mean, it's just nonsensical. Stephen Knight says, I've long been suspicious of the self-declared anti-fascists. Time and again, whenever someone put anti-fascist in their bio or introduced themselves as such, what followed was usually the most authoritarian, pro-violence rhetoric imaginable. Tyler Robinson seems to fit the mold. He fancied himself an anti-fascist too, even scrawling "Hey Fascist" catch on one of the unfired bullet casings. So here's a perfect vetting system for self-described anti-fascist. Ask them about what happened to Charlie Kirk. Anything less than full condemnation unmasks them instantly. Well, yeah, there's a lot of these people out there, but it's also quite possible that somebody might write phrases on a bullet casing to throw off investigators, perhaps. I mean, you can't just look at these things superficially at face value and jump to conclusions. I don't think that that's very prudent. Then we had this information. Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer, was frightened by pro-Israel forces before death. A longtime friend of Kirk tells the Gray Zone how the late influencer's turning point on Israel provoked a private backlash that left him angry and afraid. And I remember this because a couple weeks ago, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago, I watched this segment of Charlie Kirk talking to Megyn Kelly. And he was talking about how he was being pressured by these people for any kind of pushback or criticism of what Israel is doing, or just talking to people and platforming people who question it, that they were calling him a traitor, that they were, sending him these insane private messages. And Megyn Kelly also was experiencing the same thing. So that is a very powerful group who seem to be very recently quite upset with Charlie Kirk, who, let's not forget, was running the largest youth conservative organization in America. And these people are very rapidly losing the support that they had for their country. That's mostly among the boomers. Pretty much everybody younger than that is against what they're doing in the Middle East because we recognize it for what it is. So that might present, something that they would be very angry about and have a motive to want Charlie Kirk out of the way. After TPUSA, quote, Kirk was bombarded with infuriated text messages and calls from Netanyahu's wealthy allies in the U.S., including many who had funded TPUSA. According to his longtime friend, the Zionist donors treated Kirk with outright contempt, essentially ordering him to fall back into line. He was being told what you're not allowed to do, and it was driving him crazy. And I've gone and I've looked at some of the things he was saying within the past month, some of the shows he did, some of the interviews he did, and it seems obvious that he was starting to change and question things. And so I think that it is kind of concerning, right? And I'm going to tell you guys about the Kedon unit. This is a Mossad unit that is that carries out basically covert assassinations. I'm going to read a little bit to you about that. Within the shadows of international espionage and covert operations lies the Kedon unit, a special operations group nestled within the Mossad, Israel's national intelligence agency. Kedon has carved out a reputation as one of the world's most formidable units, specializing in targeted assassinations. The elite unit operates under a veil of mystery, executing missions with an outstanding level of precision and discretion. Interesting. The inception of the Kedon traces back to the earliest days of the Mossad. It evolved from a need to address immediate threats to Israel's national security through direct and decisive action. Over the years, the Kedon has executed many operations that have significantly impacted Israel's geopolitical landscape, from eliminating key figures who posed threats to conducting sabotage missions that have derailed potential dangers. The impact of Kedon's operations is visible in the records of Israel's intelligence and military successes. Interesting. Similar to recon Marines, the Kedon uses the equivalent of silent, swift, and deadly as their motto, and we know the Mossad's as waging war by way of deception. This phrase serves as the unofficial motto of the unit, encapsulating its operational philosophy, silent, swift, deadly. The motto underscores the unit's commitment to executing missions with the utmost discretion and efficiency, leaving no trace behind. Consistent with the unit's covert nature, Kedon keeps its symbols shrouded in secrecy. However, there is a general understanding that the symbols reflect themes of vigilance, precision, and protecting Israel's security interests. The unit's name itself, Kedon, means bayonet or tip of the spear, thus symbolizing its role as a sharp and penetrating force in Mossad's arsenal against threats to national security. Kedon does not use patches that are visible, as operatives conceal their identities to carry out operations. Just something to think about. Here we go again. Discord disputes details shared in the news conference. The company behind the online chat app Discord is disputing some details shared in Friday's news conference with officials. Utah Governor Spencer Cox said that the suspect's roommate had shown law enforcement messages from Discord in which an account going by the name Tyler discussed retrieving a firearm from a drop point, engraving bullets, and details about the scope. In a statement to NBC, a Discord spokesperson said the company did identify an account belonging to the suspect, but said the messages mentioned in the news conference were not believed to have been sent on Discord. Isn't that odd? Utah governor said the JFK-invoking Mauser was left for Tyler at a drop-point weapons cache. Are they dabbing? Are they really just going to play all the Gladio greatest hits? It is a very good question. There's something odd going on here. Charlie Kirk's own political philosophy put the bullet in the chamber of the rifle trained on him in Utah. In his total Americanness, he treated violent opposition with enough respect to want to discuss their differences with them in free and open debate. Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about, like, what we're seeing with them in their gleefulness and justifications after the fact that, yeah, maybe this is a, group that is primed to do this, but it's also quite possible that we are being lied to, that we are being manipulated. There was other things too, like the Guardian retracting information that they had published, quoting an anonymous source that was a high school friend. The Guardian just issued a quiet retraction a few hours ago for their fabricated quote from a high school friend about Tyler being, quote, the only member of his family that was really a leftist. So isn't that odd? Now, it's possible that they were pressured by other leftists to retract this information as they were, trying to pin this on him being, some kind of conservative. They're playing this political game. So these are some of the quotes that we were told about that were retracted. I find that to be strange. Like, what is going on here? This is the roommate of Tyler, who we are told he was in a romantic relationship with. Lance Twiggs. Like, honestly, what kind of name is that? In 2022 on the left, and here he is in 2025 on the right. What happened? I think it's kind of funny he's doing a Serial Experiments Lane cosplay here. But yeah, I guess it's possible that these people, these kids, were just, put into They were just radicalized, you know? I don't know. I think there's something strange going on here. We have these vigils happening, not just in America, but, you know, Turning Point had chapters in the UK as well. I think that we need to look at how that makes Charlie in particular a major threat, right? Like if he has these big donors and he starts deviating from the narrative, think about the fact that he ran this massive organization that had chapters outside of America, that there were UK Turning Point groups. That could be a big problem for them, couldn't it? I think it could. So here's this story here. When he was first spotted on campus, he had different clothing on. Then he changed his clothing on the roof and then changed back into that clothing at some point. So that when he was apprehended, like, what? What?
Yes. So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UVU. Yes. So,
like, honestly, guys, can anybody like think critically? Is anybody questioning the wardrobe change? Why was this guy changing clothes more times than a Paris fashion show model to conceal his identity, and then the first thing he does is go back and confess? This makes zero sense. Yeah, none of it is adding up here. The hilariously slipshod putative trans roommate angle they're pushing made me realize there's someone else who had a kind of weird multiple living situation thing going on, where he was staying with both his family and his roommates. Remember him? This is Vance Bolter, and this was his odd acting roommate. Yeah, it's all very weird. We have a wealth of insanely entertaining fringe deep event characters of late. Lancelot Twiggs, Elder TikTok, Vance Bolter's weepy big boy Papa John's pizza maker roommate who talked about how he would extract eyeballs. Like, what?
No, because he was on call for work, and he'd always say, yeah, I need rest for work, so I'm sharp, because he was extracting eyeballs, so gotta be sharp for that. I remember him walking out of the house.
Like, this is so weird. It is all very weird, is it not? You have to admit that it's bizarre. And then, of course, we have what's been going on since this happened. A bill has been introduced in Congress that would allow Marco Rubio to revoke the passports of American citizens if they criticize the Care Bear Nation. Florida Congressman Brian Mast, who literally went and served in the IDF, a foreign military, is introducing a bill that could potentially be used to deny U.S. citizens the right to travel just for criticizing a foreign nation. How outrageous is it? Could you imagine if American politicians started trying to introduce bills to say, we're going to seize your passport if you criticize China? Like, that would be rightly seen as treasonous behavior and just ridiculous. And yet this is what's happening. Isn't it interesting? Does anyone else find it strange that a White House official warned supporting Thomas Massey's petition to release the Epstein list would be considered a very hostile act toward the administration? Then Charlie Kirk did exactly that, urging the administration to make the files public. The next day, something very bad happened to him. Coincidences. And this mural immediately appears in Israel. And it's just creepy. It's bizarre. Netanyahu immediately does this media tour to let everybody know he had nothing to do with it. On September 9th, this is just a few days ago, Kirk reiterated his calls for a full release of the files. Wow. Then the next day, he was unalived. Like, this is so tacky. It's so creepy that they're doing this. It reeks of a guilty conscience. It reeks of, you know, how an abuser would try to, you know, very publicly pretend that they have the perfect relationship with the person that they are secretly abusing. It is dark, guys. We have Ben Shapiro immediately. You know, Charlie Kirk's body isn't even cold yet, and Ben Shapiro's rushing out to run defense, to talk about how he's going to pick up the mantle of Charlie Kirk. Guys, this is weird. So he goes immediately on Bill Maher to say that he's sure that the guy was on the left. Bill Maher says, we actually don't know anything. And he brings up the Groypers. Maybe he was a Groyper. Shapiro says, I'm not sure he's not that. A few seconds ago, you were. Like, this is so weird, this deflection.
If there's a shooting at a synagogue, it is very likely to be either a white supremacist or a radical Muslim. If it is a shooting of a Republican politician, it is very likely to be a trans Antifa Marxist shooter.
That is just not true.
We
don't know what this kid is.
We do know this kid was of the left. We do know that.
We do know what?
That this kid was of the political left. That is
the only information that we have to suggest this is information we're getting from law enforcement, from the government, from the state of Utah. And I should add that, you know, the Mormons specifically in Utah are very tied in with the CIA, because the CIA often uses missionary work as cover for a covert operator, because missionaries are able to travel the world and there's some kind of plausible reason for them to do so. So they make the perfect intelligence assets. And this actually came out during the Church Committee during the 1970s, that in fact the CIA uses these missionaries to go, you know, as cover for operators. So that's kind of strange too. But yeah, here's Ben Shapiro immediately deflecting.
according to contemporaneous reporting from The Guardian, as well as Tablet Magazine today.
It's 2 days out. We don't know shit, Ben.
But
we don't know shit. They never do. The internet is undefeated in getting it wrong to begin with.
It's not about the internet. That's about the actual reporting by mainstream accepted. The Guardian is not a right-wing
Here's what we heard. Here's what was.
And then The Guardian had to issue that retraction. So it's just like weird that Shapiro's out here, you know, on defense, making the rounds, you know, within 24 hours before Bibi could barely wait 24 hours before exploiting Kirk's death for pro-Israel propaganda. Here he is on Fox trying to connect what happened to Kirk to Islamist Marxist alliance. I mean, honestly, he immediately, almost within an hour, he was tweeting about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Within a few hours, he's on Newsmax denying that Israel had anything to do with it. It's like, what a strange thing to do. This weird getting ahead of it public tour of we didn't do it is concerning behavior. It is very odd behavior.
He said, he wrote me a letter on May 2nd this year. He said, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances to defend Judeo-Christian civilization. A few weeks before the tragedy yesterday, I called him and I spoke to him and I said, please come to Israel. I invited him to Israel.
Yeah, very odd.
And sadly, that visit will not take place. But he was a defender of our common Judeo-Christian civilization. He was unbelievably excited to walk in the footsteps of Jesus here. He valued our bond, the bond between America and Israel. He did so many things to defend free speech. He had his truth. He stood up for it. But he said, you can come and debate me. He invited that debate. He certainly didn't invite the violence, the horrible violence that tried to...
Now, this man is a war criminal. that you are listening to, this is an individual who helped perpetrate 9/11 and drag America into forever wars. It is, yeah, Netanyahu and Israel can be the center of attention again. We miss them. It's literally every single day. That's what's happening. Then we have this. Max Blumenthal tells Tim Dillon that the president fears for his life, specifically because the Care Bears, and during one of Bibi's visits this year, Secret Service discovered electronic devices in their emergency response vehicles. Remember the Stingray devices that they had planted around the White House back in 2020 during the first administration.
Does the president of the United States fear for his life?
Yes. Yes. I mean, obviously he fears for his life. And I was told that he feared for his life before the 2 assassination attempts, one coming within a millimeter of striking his head. I mean, let's not forget about that.
But I mean, just to clarify, he doesn't fear for his life because of Ireland.
Right.
I mean, I've been told, yes, that Israel is a major source of concern for Trump. I mean, think about it. What would happen
this
if
is
the
our
president
ally.
just...
Our ally. Yes, of course. That's what we're always told, is it not?
If he suspended arms
confused.
to... If he suspended arms to a country that carries out assassinations all across the globe, that specializes in assassinations, that has an entire wing of its intelligence services that conducts assassinations, including with household goods like pagers, would you not be scared? So yes, Trump is scared. And what I learned from this source, who is a Trump insider, someone who talks to...
This is deeply concerning, is it not? Because when you look at the subservience of the government to this foreign nation, in light of this information, does it not make sense that, oh yeah, you know, they're scared of these gangsters who will, you know, without a hesitation, take you out?
Who has, you know, who talks to people in the Oval Office, people close to Trump, is that during one of Netanyahu's many visits to the U.S. this year, some figures in his retinue, Israeli agents, placed electronic devices on emergency response Secret Service vehicles. The Secret Service found them and they reported this to the White House. You know, these would be emergency response vehicles that would respond to an incident potentially involving the president.
Now, why would they need to do that? Why would they need to place devices on those vehicles? Like, that is very disturbing. And if they're willing to do that, what aren't they willing to do? The most disturbing thing about what Bibi said following Charlie's death to me is that he insinuated Israel's enemies were responsible, just like he did on 9/11, despite the fact that no suspect was named or in custody yet. You know, I'm saying this looks very bad. Yeah, it is very bad. It does indeed look very bad. It's very concerning. It's very odd. Strange behavior. Theo Vaughn talking about this. He says it feels like some dark and powerful people know what's going on and they're not telling the rest of us. Like there's something bigger and evil in the distance hiding behind something that is kind of laughing a little bit. Yeah.
If there is a microphone there and he's there to debate, go and debate him. You know, go speak your piece. Whether the crowd agrees or if whoever kind of wins the debate or whatever, I don't know if that matters. What matters is that you like kind of try and share whatever you're thinking or feeling. And maybe there's people that don't. Maybe there's people that don't feel like they have a place to do that. I don't know. But to go that far away, not even have the balls to go to the microphone or to. I think something about that makes me sick. That's what it is. I think it's made me feel sick. And I think there's other stuff, you know, like feeling like there's like it feels like some people in the world, like some like dark and powerful people, know what's going on and they're not telling the rest of us.
Yeah, because they're the ones orchestrating it. Hello. The day before Charlie's death, he objected to Bibi's assertion that you can't be MAGA if you are against the Care Bears during an interview with Creepy Ben, who, you know, immediately is running defense and, you know, making the rounds, you know, and saying, I'm going to pick up the man. It's weird, guys. This is weird.
We're running out of time here, but just last question on this, Ben. I know this might be a tougher question, but Bibi said, quote, I didn't like he said this, I'll be honest. You can't be MAGA if you're anti-Israel. I don't like it for a couple reasons. How did you analyze that statement from Bibi?
I mean, and I think that there is the ungenerous way of interpreting that and then the generous way of interpreting that. So the ungenerous way is to suggest that you have to hold a particular position on every Israeli governmental activity in order to be MAGA. Which, of course, is not true. I mean, you can disagree from the right or from the left with Bibi's policies, and you can still be plenty MAGA. I think the idea that Bibi is putting out there is that if you are taking Hamas's side against Israel in a conflict, it is very difficult to align that with the stated positions of the Trump administration or what President Trump himself is doing right now. And that much I certainly is true.
You cannot, look, I think you can have disagreements on Israel and still be MAGA, obviously.
Yeah. Interesting. Between Rabbi Shmuley launching his GoFundMe and Ben Shapiro relaunching his college campus tour and most likely his career on the grave of Charlie Kirk, I must say that it is undoubtedly the Care Bear lobby that took him out. I mean, it is really weird. This is odd behavior.
Now, it's still up to us. I saw a lot of rumors online today. I was made aware of this by my team that I canceled some sort of college tour. That's bullshit. I saw those rumors. They are false. I will be coming to college campuses, many of them this year. So will we all, I am sure, because we're Americans and we're not going to be deterred. Charlie's voice is not silent. We're going to pick up that blood-stained microphone where Charlie left it. And to those who would intimidate.
What a disturbing thing to say. We're going to pick up the blood-stained microphone. This is weird behavior.
Who would seek to stop us, who would seek to end free discussion, who believe that they have ownership over public spaces and can violently threaten and kill people who speak freely. We are not going to stop, and I have two words. Fuck you.
Yeah, right back at you, Ben. What I also find odd about this is how Ben is talking about how he is going to be touring college campuses. And if you remember what's been happening earlier this year, protesters who are protesting what the Care Bears are doing are being, you know, essentially kicked out of school. Some of them are being deported if they're here on student visas. It seems like a kind of way to get onto these college campuses and to kind of control what is being discussed. I just find it very bizarre. And Ben Shapiro obviously is a psychopath. Tucker Carlson, talking to Megyn Kelly, said that after Charlie went to the White House to urge the president not to strike Iran, he received massive abuse and intense messages from his donors and made a lot of real enemies.
He was one of the only people, I mean, truly one of the only people to go to the president whom he loved. He loved Donald Trump, like personally as well. And I think the president really loved him in a real way. But he was one of the only people to go to the Oval Office and say, sir, I totally understand and think Iran's really bad, but a war with Iran is not, you know, is something that could really hurt our country. I mean, boy, that was an unpopular position. He didn't need to express it. Oh, of course. And he did it again. He didn't have some weird agenda. He wasn't mad at anybody. He was for his country and he was for doing the right and wise and difficult thing. And he said that. He went to the Oval Office to say that. He took massive massive abuse from his own donors, which is also something that you don't see people. And he loved his donors. It wasn't a hostile.
That is really strange. So, you know, perhaps there was a reason that he became a target in the months leading up to what happened by some very powerful people.
Thing, but they had a different view. A lot of them, not all, but a lot. And they expressed it to him in a very intense way. I know because he showed me. And he said, look, I understand your perspective. This is my perspective, and we're going to do what we think is the right thing, the wise thing.
In that way, too, he was the voice of young people. I mean, there are no young people in the country anymore supporting this war and wanting Israel to continue its bombing campaign. That's just the truth. Look at the polls. And he was in touch with them. And even where his own opinion may have differed from their opinion, he felt like he owed it to them to bring their message to the sitting president of the United States. I mean,
he had access to the president, and many people credit Charlie Kirk with helping him win the election because he was able to have this grassroots mobilization of young people. So yeah, if he was maybe changing his mind, that could be a problem for them. I highly recommend people watch this video by Propaganda and Company on X, asking the question if it's possible that they did this, that they were responsible for this. It's about 18 minutes long, and I would say it's definitely worth your time, definitely worth thinking about. Care Bear lobby paid lawmakers attack Americans. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Brian Mast, who is basically Care Bears only former IDF soldier, sponsored a bill to give the Care Bears the ability to strip Americans of their passport if they criticize them. It is insane. You would not see that happening anywhere else. Absolute insanity. Brian Mast, IDF soldier, wears their uniform in America's Congress. Like, just imagine if somebody wore a Chinese military uniform as an American politician. Insanity. He's received over $700,000 from the Care Bear lobby, was given an award by the Care Bear Organization of America. Unreal. Like, literally, it is a hostile takeover. It has been a hostile takeover. There was this video I saw making the rounds of a journalist capturing what appeared to be a drone in the sky. It's 50 seconds after the shot. Now, I am not an expert on drones, but I feel like that could probably be a bird. I don't know. It's possible it is a drone. It's possible that the video's fake. I don't know. I thought you would want to know that. That is odd. In the few days since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro announces he's basically taking over TPUSA. We've gotten a block of release of the Epstein files, banned the Pentagon from boycotting the Care Bears, pushed a bill to revoke citizenship for criticizing the Care Bears. Another $650 million has been approved for the Care Bears, and Marco Rubio visits the Care Bear Nation. Huh. How strange. We have from Axios, Kirk suspect's roommate aghast, may be key to the motive. Well, is this not the same person that they said he was talking to in Discord about this? So he knew about it in advance, but he's aghast? Does any of this make sense? It certainly doesn't to me. And the fact that they didn't seize the electronic devices and just took pictures of these alleged Discord messages, I find concerning, because it seems to me that that could easily be manufactured. And what if they threatened this kid with charging him as an accessory in order to get him to kind of go along with the narrative? It's possible. It is very strange. On the very day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the Senate voted 51-49 to block the release of the Epstein files. Huh. Interesting. It's so lucky for Ben Shapiro that as his Daily Wire empire fails, A new lucrative leadership position opens up at Turning Point USA. What are the odds? Indeed, what are they? How panicked are the Care Bears? They got their consul general to southern China posting about Charlie Kirk. This is weird. It is odd behavior from these people. Very strange. Then we have this clip, which, you know, you guys have seen. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. The world is our stage. I feel like when a nation brags about this sort of thing on national television, it's kind of hard to call people anti-Care Bears for giving them credit for it. Yeah, so you had Greenblatt here, Nosferatu, complaining about people asking the question if the Care Bears took out Kirk. Over 10,000 mentions of this online. Gee, I wonder why that might be. Then we've got Barry Weiss, the disgusting opportunist and foreign agent, saying, someone in the newsroom said that this shattering event feels like the aftermath of another Charlie Hebdo. Like, what are you talking about? They're not remotely similar events. What a bizarre way to make this about you and your people and your perceived enemies, the enemies of the Care Bear Nation. It is strange. Filmed in 2018, trying so hard it's obvious to a child. We've got another Care Bear saying, Charlie Kirk praised the Care Bear Nation and Netanyahu. He's a special leader. He's everything a leader should be. Powerful, never before seen footage from 2018. They had to go back this far to find him praising Bibi.
We've been on the move. We were in Israel a couple weeks ago for the embassy opening.
We went out with Huckabee about 4 or 5 years ago.
Is it not the most amazing place?
I never been. And we had like an hour with Netanyahu.
He's special.
Yes.
He's a special leader.
Yeah, he's real special. Oh, man. They knew they were losing Charlie Kirk. Guys, honestly.
If Bibi Netanyahu, if he does something I don't like, and if I criticize it, am I like a bad Christian?
Absolutely not.
What I find strange is that we're able to criticize the American government sometimes in the Christian world.
Yeah, so he was starting to ask these questions.
With more freedom than the Israeli government. To be pro-Israel means you believe in the nation of Israel, not necessarily the government of Israel.
Yeah. This episode is being scrubbed from the internet. This was from November of 2023. Let me know if you can find a full copy. He's talking about the communities who are pushing the exact kind of hatred against white people they claim they want people to stop using against them, he said on his show. It seems like he was starting to upset people.
Elon responds, and he says, you have said the actual truth. Now, we don't know what part Elon is saying is the actual truth, so let's go through this. Again, it's double negatives and misuse of the word disinterested. It's a strange tweet that Elon pinpointed on here. But the first part is absolutely true. Let's go to this. Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true, the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that.
Dang, he was saying this kind of stuff.
Elon response.
So I think that that's interesting. New York Times forced to retract the statements as not Charlie's, yet the video shows he was backing up the statements and agreeing. Yes, he certainly was. Charlie Kirk's security and their ties to the Care Bears, Schaefer Security Group. this is weird. This episode being scrubbed, and there's a 9-minute clip of it here. Here he is talking about Epstein in July of 2025. July 15, he falls in line, says he's done talking about Epstein for the time being, but then he talked about them again. Yeah, so I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's all very strange. And then this guy is strange. This whole story is strange. Like, what is the motive here for Tyler? New York Post reporting that a neighbor saw several people driving cars with out-of-state plates going in and out of the apartment of Tyler Robinson and his partner, Lance Twiggs, 2 weeks before the event. Gee, who could those people be? Very odd. And just to throw this out there, Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, says that the Care Bears T to civilian kill ratio is better than anyone has ever had in the history of humanity because they are using his software. This is blatantly false. Blatantly false. There are so many civilians that are dying in Gaza. Children, women, babies. It is outrageous for him to say this, but not surprising. New York Times has reviewed the so-called Discord chats purportedly made by Tyler. He said his, quote, doppelganger was trying to get him in trouble. He joked about getting a cut of the reward and said it was really Kirk. He was really Kirk, and he was faking his death to exit politics. How odd. How strange. Then we have the neighbor saying that they were seen dressed in all black with a black mask on, and then they asked about, did he seem like he was dating the roommate? He said, random guys don't hold hands and definitely don't kiss. Huh.
With him.
Were they holding hands?
Yeah, they were. So, yeah, they drove off in his car, the Dodge Challenger.
The time you saw them or this week?
It was about the time I saw them. So
how long ago was that?
I would say about 2 weeks ago.
And so they looked like they were couples?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. How bizarre.
And he was dressed all in black?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And you thought he was weird?
Yeah, I definitely, yeah.
What was weird about him?
Just the way he walked and just...
He has the SSRI 1,000-yard stare, does he not? So that's interesting. And then just today, in American governance, here we go. Like, you could not make this up if you wanted to, guys. I'm sorry. It's bizarre. Remember when the Care Bears were caught placing Stingray devices around the White House during the president's first term? Did you read the passage in Boris Johnson's memoir where he said his security team found a surveillance device in his personal toilet after Bibi used it? Crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it is. We had this guy back in 2023 saying, if Charlie Kirk remains the head of TPUSA, the right has an anti-Care Bear problem that will follow them into the coming elections. He links this. Kirk's TPUSA work has made him a multimillionaire who owns 5 properties. He's set to lead a $108 million GOTV effort in Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin. And he's saying that the Care Bears had a stand-down order and let October 7 happen. So I'm starting to see a big motive here, guys. A big motive. And this guy is from The Spectator. He's an editor with The Spectator, host of the Big Ben show on Fox, part of Fox News, and has a newsletter called The Transom. And I find that it's interesting. This very well could be another Sayanim or an asset. But what an odd thing to say about Charlie. Yeah. July 15, Kirk says, I'm done talking about Epstein. 2 days after the TPUSA event he held with Megyn Kelly, in the show he did with Steve Bannon, Charlie got the call from the administration to drop the subject. Charlie did not, despite saying he was done talking about it. Only 10 days ago, he was still posting videos about the Epstein files, and I found him bringing it up at least 5 times since then. He got the call after the event with Steve Bannon in July, but chose to post the video 11 days ago tying Epstein to Mossad and calling out the administration for being complicit with the deep state if they don't investigate it. Around the same time Charlie and Steve did their event, Steve was floating the idea of running in 2028. Very interesting.
The show that knows there is never a dull moment on the New York City subway.
Okay, we're not even going to bother watching that. But yeah, this is very, very interesting. Just a few days ago, September 3rd, he's still talking about it. Still talking about Epstein. Yeah, it is. I don't know, guys. I think it's weird. Just today, Rubio, Huckabee, Bibi, praying at the Wailing Wall wearing kippahs. Have you ever seen any Israeli leader come to America, put on a crucifix, and visit a Christian church and pray in a Christian church with American politicians? It doesn't happen. We've got Sebastian Gorka, obvious spook, saying, "Bravo to Ben Shapiro for saying he will pick up Kirk's bloody mic and continue his work across American campuses. Don't care if it's impolitic. This Catholic thinks you're a mensch, Ben. Hashtag we are Charlie Kirk." And this creepy image, very bizarre. Like, they literally couldn't even wait for him to be buried before Ben Shapiro's out there running around talking about taking the reins, taking over. We've got this, every Care Bear connection to Charlie Kirk's assassination so far. He was groomed by the Care Bears as a teenager. He was the Care Bears' top non-Care Bear loyalist. He starts mildly criticizing the Care Bears. He said Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad. He said no Iran war on behalf of the Care Bears. He lobbied the administration against an Iran war. Trump barked back at him over it. He said that the Care Bears had full control of the administration. He referred to Bibi as a bully. He feared the Care Bears would unalive him. Harrison Smith posts about his fear a month ago, back in August, so before this even happened. Bibi requests that Charlie visit the Care Bears. Bibi offers TPUSA huge funding. Charlie refuses Bibi's funding offer. He became, quote-unquote, disgusted with him. He let anti-Care Bearists speak at his events. The Care Bear media starts attacking him. Care Bear donors threaten to defund TPUSA. Care Bear donors demand that Charlie Kirk ban Tucker from TPUSA events. Donors cut him off and launch attacks. Laura Loomer says Kirk backstabbed the president. Zio FBI director fires the chief of the Utah FBI. Guys, that happened. That is a verifiable fact. It is weird. He has anti-Care Bear interview with Ben Shapiro. Shapiro attacks Kirk on Mark Levin. That was 3 days before this happened. He has, quote, combative meeting with a Care Bear rabbi. Before September 10, unusual people visited the quote-unquote shooter. Yeah, possible patsy or, PTK'd idiot. The visitors had out-of-state plates. Visitors did not give off a good vibe. Charlie then shot in the jugular from 200 yards away. Unidentified man runs in the crowd with a pistol. Police arrest Patsy, claiming to be shooter. Patsy yells, "Shoot me," during arrest. 9/11 propaganda video surfaces of George Zinn. Actual shooter flees without a trace. Bibi tweets within minutes. The Care Bear media are the first to confirm Charlie's death. This is strange, guys. It's weird. A private jet takes off 12 minutes away. Private jet disables location monitoring. Jet is owned by Chabad Lubavitch donor. Bibi posts about Charlie's Care Bear trip. FBI says foreign intelligence is assisting them in their investigation. We all know who that would be. The FBI claims they have photos of the shooter. FBI claims shooter wore tactical gear. Assembled gun found in wooded area. No photos exist of a shooter with the gun. No photos exist of a shooter in tactical gear. Care Bears go on social media blitz about Kirk. Bibi goes on media blitz about Kirk. Bibi says Islamists behind this, Israel's enemies. Bibi says that Care Bears didn't kill him. Bibi reads Kirk's, quote, pro-Care Bear letter. Candace says the letter was faked. Candace calls on Bibi to publish the letter. Tucker says Charlie was at war with the Care Bears. Cernovich says Kirk was at war with donors. The Gray Zone drops an article with a Trump administration insider. Insider confirms Kirk's war with the Care Bears. Insider confirms the president is fearful of the Care Bears. Insider confirms that the Mossad is spying on the president. The president's insiders don't buy FBI story. Insiders say outside forces are responsible for this, but I'm sure it was just some random liberal kid because trans. Then we had this. This is happening in another country, but it's still odd timing. 6 AFD politicians have quote-unquote mysteriously died right before a key election. This is the most obvious string of assassinations I have ever seen. The cops aren't even investigating these deaths as suspicious. Yeah. In the local election campaign, AFD has recorded 2 more deaths in addition to the 4 already reported. 2 reserve list candidates have also died, according to Politico. Yeah, straight up unaliving moderate right candidates in Europe. Died unexpectedly right before a key election. I guess, you know, we're supposed to find all of this totally reasonable. Yeah. Unreal. Oh, this one just unalived himself. Sure, nothing to see here. This is odd, guys. It's all very strange. So, I don't know. It's possible that it was what they are telling us, right? It was just this weird kid who lived with a male to female roommate / lover and just hated Charlie Kirk, you know, and planned this and carried it out. But I think that we need to look at the behavior of certain people in the aftermath that is obviously questionable, like Netanyahu, like Ben Shapiro. It is strange. The whole thing is weird. And the fact that we have such little information about any kind of actual forensic evidence tying Tyler Robinson to the weapon is weird. We haven't even seen pictures of these so-called bullet casings. And it's just like this story makes no sense. All of the information we're getting is from the government, from law enforcement. We're not seeing any actual evidence, though. We're just being told things. Oh, we interviewed parents. They said this. Interviewed a friend. They said this. Oh, we're interviewing the lover roommate and he's cooperating. Okay, but where's the actual evidence of this? There's no transparency here whatsoever. I don't know, guys. I am questioning of this, and so I just wanted to put that out there. I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on this entire thing. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that this isn't a deep event, that it's just, Tyler Robinson and maybe some crazy leftist groups? Or do you think that perhaps Charlie Kirk had become too powerful in his own right? That perhaps he was even being seen as a potential politician himself, as somebody who could run for president one day and win, somebody who was starting to turn against his donors and the people who kind of helped him build out this organization, that Charlie Kirk was starting to take control over, perhaps, that he was starting to push back on people that maybe he had allowed to have more influence in the past. I think that that's something that we should be considering, because if he did do that, and we started to see this kind of questioning, the most mild, questioning, but still questioning, the very fact that he said that there was a stand down order regarding 10-7 is also a big deal to them. I think that perhaps it is possible he made some powerful enemies, and that they thought it would be better to just get rid of him now, to pin it on some leftist, which gets, both sides in the country distracted from what the Care Bears are doing, from what they just did to Qatar, a U.S. ally, where we have American military bases and American soldiers. They're bombing there. We're all distracted from that now. And everybody in America is arguing with each other. Both sides are angry at each other. Both sides, it's a very divisive thing. And maybe that is exactly what they wanted. It also furthers this kind of dialectic that we're seeing, being imposed on America in order to take away our rights. You get people riled up about wanting to go after the other side, and ultimately, all of us are the ones who end up suffering because of that. As at the same time, they're moving forward with the Palantir Global Panopticon. But remember, the FBI couldn't even find this guy with all of the tools that they have at their disposal, with all of the resources, with their ability to, from outer space, from satellites in space, to zoom in so well they can see a penny on the street. We're to believe the only videos, the only images they could get were those low quality pictures that were being promulgated on social media as the FBI was asking for help locating somebody. I don't know, guys. It's all very weird. But I am interested to know what you guys think, and I encourage you to pray for his family, for his children. His daughter, 3-year-old daughter, was there. She heard the noise and started running to him because she was scared, and she had to see what happened. We should not forget this. This is insane. It is disgusting, and I am, of course, reminded of JFK. And the people who were responsible for that, because JFK did not like them having nuclear weapons. He knew about the Dimona facility. He wanted them to have to get inspections. He wanted to inspect it. He did not want any country in the Middle East to be nuclearized. And we all know what happened to him, and we were told it was Lee Harvey Oswald with the same Mauser, and nothing to see here. Odd. All right, guys, that's it for now. I hope you all have a good day.